Madam Speaker, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
President Obama made history with his election. You made history with your election as Speaker. He heads the executive branch. You are the most powerful person in the legislative branch. Does that make you equal partners, or do you see your job as delivering what he wants?
Well, we are two separate branches of government, but in the Congress of the United States, we're absolutely delighted to have Barack Obama be President of the United States. And we work together, and now we believe that working together with President Obama, we will have the most productive Congress in 70 years, maybe not since 1932. So it's a good combination, and again, we respect the constitutional prerogatives of each of our branch of government.
The reason I ask the question is sometimes early in his presidency, people have accused you of hijacking his agenda. One particular example, on a week when we heard that Social Security and Medicare may go broke more rapidly than we'd previously thought, many people have said that you and the House blocked the idea of an entitlement commission, which the president wanted to do early in his administration. Why did you do that?
Well, I have for a long time said, and I've worked with Senator Reid on this, that we want the Congress of the United States, the committees of jurisdiction, to review what the options are for us. It also in the context of how we reduce the deficit. So soon as we had our budget passed, which was a major lift, and we're very proud of it as a statement of our values and the president's budget, that we would then turn our attention to how we dealt with PAYGO, no new deficit spending, and how we would deal with entitlements within the Congress of the United States. If others want to do other things, God bless them, but we have our responsibility. We represent the people, and we wanted to take our turn at that.
But do you think people who are very focused on reducing the long-term insolvency of those programs are right to see you as an obstacle to that process?
No, I don't agree with that characterization. What I'm saying is that we have to reduce the deficit in our country. We must have fiscal soundness. This is the mantra of our House Democrats, and that's why we have I have supported statutory PAYGO, the pay as you go, and that any legislation that comes over, whether it's health care or AMT or middle income tax cuts, several of those, will not be brought to the floor unless a PAYGO bill has been passed or unless they are paid for. So everybody has to do what they do. They don't have to bother about saying somebody else is wrong. If they have their ideas, they can advance them. We'll have hearings. They can bring their ideas in. It'll be a very open process. But we had to pass our budget before we could go to the next step.
Speaking of contention, as you know, a lot of items on the president's agenda and your agenda are very controversial, and business is opposed to some of them. Let me give you one example, the cap and trade idea. You hear many in the business community and some in energy states, coal states and oil states, say that this is a proposal that would make it more difficult to do business, raise the cost of doing business, raise prices to consumers. When you hear complaints like that, do you think this is just special interest scare tactics, or do you think they have a point that you've got to accommodate?
Well, I have said all along, as we go forward with our energy bill, that we're all going down this path together, that we're respectful of energy-intense industries in our country and their competitiveness internationally, that we're interested in how we get to clean coal and recognize that as an abundant resource in our country and important in terms of jobs, but we have to get to a different place on it and to reduce pollution. Whether we're talking about the auto industry, the oil patch, the coal patch, whatever it is, we're going down this path together. The fact is, though, that if we do not move on to a new energy policy, it will be very costly to our economy. The three items in the president's budget that we have, education, health care, and energy, are there as priorities because they are what economists, the business community, the academic world tell us will grow the economy and create jobs. And unless we do these things, we will be left behind internationally. In terms of energy, it's a national security issue. to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. It is an economic issue in terms of competitiveness internationally and the cost to our economy. It is an environmental health issue in terms of reducing pollution, and it is a moral issue. That's why the evangelicals are working with us. This is God's planet, they believe, and as do I, and we have a moral responsibility to preserve it and to pass it on to the next generation, whether that's faith-based with you or just your moral responsibility.
On cap and trade, a lot of people say, might be able to get it through the House, cannot pass the Senate. It's not going to happen.
People say that all the time. You know, when I became Speaker, my flagship issue that I announced was energy security and climate change issue. And I established a select committee to deal with those issues that Mr. Markey chairs. They said, you'll never pass an energy bill. Don't embarrass yourself. You put it out there, you'll lose for sure. And I knew the more that the special interests said that, the better chance my prospects were for success, because they did not want it to come to the floor. We passed that. It was the first time in 32 years that we had an emissions standard. President Bush signed it into law.
So does that mean that you do think the objections to cap and trade are special interest scare tactics?
But I'm just saying that people may not know. What we've tried to do in this process, and I think that Chairman Waxman and Chairman Markey have been masterful in terms of listening to people, addressing their concerns. Because as I said, we're all going down this path together. We're not saying what's the bill that one of us thinks should go. We have to go down together. And perhaps they have some misconceptions. Some people don't believe that global warming exists. I know I just heard of a story of a head of a major firm who said he doesn't believe in global warming, and his role will be to prove that it's not happening. Well, it is happening, and in order for us to be internationally competitive, we have to develop the technologies to make energy cleaner, to reduce cost, and again, in terms of our national security, to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. So I feel very confident about the path we're going. The public is so far ahead of the Congress and some of the people that you're suggesting. Doesn't mean you don't listen to their ideas, see what their objection is, and see if you can reconcile it. It might be legitimate, or it might just be the agents of the status quo who have long reigned in Washington, D.C., but a new day is here.
Well, speaking of the status quo, health care is a big issue on the president's agenda. The administration acknowledges that you need more revenue beyond what they can save in the system, maybe $1 trillion or $2 trillion to cover everyone. President Obama proposed limiting the itemized deductions for people who make over $250,000. Senators say, influential senators say, we're not doing that. And they're talking instead about removing the exclusion from employer-provided health care. Your chairman in the House, Charlie Rangel, says, not doing that. Where are you going to get the money
Welcome
for this?
to the legislative process, where all kinds of ideas are on the table, and everybody has to prove their worth or effectiveness as we go forward. Suffice to say that we will have, as the President has called for, quality, affordable, accessible health care, which will reduce cost, and allow people to have the health care that they have, if that is their choice. So
soda taxes?
We have to
Some
wait.
people are talking about
we
that?
have to wait and see. We haven't gotten the report from the Congressional Budget Office to see what the costs are that are involved. We put everything on the table and see how it competes, how it works. You have to, on this health, this has to work. And so it not only has to pass, but it has to work.
Are soda taxes actually a possibility?
Everything on the table. But again, let us see what the gap is, if any. But let me just say this, the cost to our economy for not doing health care is vast. The cost to the economy and loss of productive days, the health care cost and the rest. So what we have is a situation where we've already done a great deal in terms of health IT, children's health, veterans' health. We want to do more. We've done more for health care to date, even before we get into the bill, than has been done since the 60s when Medicare was passed. So let us see what the costs are, what the priorities are, but through prevention, universality of bringing everybody in, earlier interventions into their situations, a healthier America, not just about health care, but the health of America. It will lower cost. The technology will reduce error, and we will have a healthier country.
Let me ask you about the economy.
Again, health care is one of the three.
Yes.
that we must do to grow the economy and create jobs.
Some good signs in the economy so far the administration has pointed to, but unemployment's high, expected to go higher, maybe hit 10% next year and be soft for a while. Mark Zandi, a well-respected economist by both sides, told me the other day that he sees two possibilities next spring. A lot of push from Congress for a new stimulus, a second stimulus package, and also for delaying some of those tax increases on people who making over $200,000 or $250,000 that are due to go up when the Bush tax cuts expire. Are either of those things a possibility in your mind?
Well, I would like to let us work with the recovery package, the stimulus package that we have. It has not realized its full potential yet. It is unfolding, and it's very effective, and we believe everything in there is a job creator or saver, a job creator or saver. So I'm not prepared at this time to say that we should have another stimulus package. Let's see how this works. And other initiatives all along, we've had a water bill, we'll have a transportation bill, we have other initiatives that are job creators as well. So I'm not going to say whether I think we need another one. I don't know.
What about extending the Bush tax cuts if the economy is still weak?
Well, I myself have been one who has thought that those tax cuts should have been repealed a while back. But again, the president will make his...
No chance of that from your point of view.
Well, I don't want to say no chance of it. I'm just saying the president will make his proposal, and we all have to make choices in light of what the situation is. So I wouldn't make any predictions right now about a stimulus package or any issue relating to tax. I do know this, that if we are going to grow the economy, the investments, and Mr. Zandi has testified to this over and over again, and you're right, he is very respected on both sides of the aisle, over and over again, that investments in whether it's education, infrastructure, healthcare, unemployment insurance, food stamps, those investments are more, stimulate the economy much better than tax cuts.
Everybody's been looking at how much money is left from the TARP, which I know was unpopular with your members, the $700 billion. A little over $100 billion is left, and some may be coming back from large financial institutions. But if we had a financial setback, and the president, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, came to you and said, we need more money to prevent the financial system from going under, could you get the votes for it?
Be very hard. Be very hard. You know, we worked in a very bipartisan way with President Bush. His own party deserted him on this to produce the votes for the TARP. Our members were not happy about that credit is not flowing the way they think it should, that people are using the money as a cushion. And we suspect that they would use some of that. But I think people want to see more results in their neighborhoods. And all of this is not getting down to where people are. So it would be very hard. I would hope that that would not be a request the president would make.
You would think that the $700 billion is it. You think it's impossible to do?
I never say anything is impossible, but I will say that the doomsday scenario that was presented to us by the Bush administration insisted that if we did not pass legislation, we would have no economy within 4 days. You know, they should have come in sooner. But they couldn't get the votes on the Republican side. Our members are not happy about how the TARP was implemented by the Bush administration. It's better now under the Obama administration, but there is not a big appetite for more TARP funding, no.
As you know, the administration is pushing for new regulation for Wall Street and the financial industry. What is Washington's role, or does Washington have any role in regulating the compensation, the pay of financial executives, of any executives in this country?
The anger that you saw from the American people and reflected in Congress was about compensation for AIG officials. We were getting bonuses after we had put in $180 billion of taxpayer dollars and Fed money. Then they gave bonuses to some of the people who got us in this situation. So when you're having about taxpayers bailing out a company and then getting the people who brought the company down getting these bonuses, some didn't. Some I think probably should have earned a bonus. Whether they should be using taxpayer dollars is another thing. Anyway, having said that, I think we have to not paint everyone with the same brush. that we reward success, the entrepreneurial spirit. I come from California. We reward the entrepreneurial spirit, and risk-taking, responsible risk-taking is part of that entrepreneurial spirit. And I believe that I think it should be rewarded. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it has to be responsible. So I think what you will see Washington do, as we go forward with regulatory reform, that some of these subjects will be brought up. I think the more important priority is how we calibrate the regulatory reform and not overreact to what happened, but recognize that these financial institutions had no discipline, no supervision, no regulation, and that's one of the reasons we're in the situation that we're in today. So I'd rather keep our focus on how we calibrate the regulation, not overdo it, be sensitive to the markets, reward success.
So you don't want to go too far on executive pay. You think that Washington's role is very limited in that?
Yeah, I think so. But I also think that there should be some common sense in the business community, and not this arrogance of incredible compensation. The disparity.
Are dollar caps inappropriate?
I would not be one to go to that path, but if people are taking taxpayer dollars, then they have taken themselves into another realm. It has to be a full conversation, and I don't think, that we should paint everyone with the same brush. I think we have to reward entrepreneurial spirit and some risk-taking, but responsible. But we have to stop a situation where we nationalize the risk and we privatize the gain and the arrogance that goes with, well, I'm entitled to this, even though my company is down the drain.
As you know, everybody's talking about this issue of torture and your role, the briefings. You had the press conference earlier today. Karl Rove wrote in the Wall Street Journal today that you weren't telling the truth. But it's not just coming from conservatives. Jon Stewart the other night on The Daily Show had a segment that raised questions about your account in April, saying that you hadn't known about waterboarding. Do you understand why some people feel misled by your previous statements? And is it hurting your leadership?
Absolutely not. Karl Rove is going to say what Karl Rove said, so why even go there? Jon Stewart, I'm a big fan. I watch him every night, and mocking Congress is a stock in trade of what many of those shows do. But the fact is that the CIA misled the Congress in how it briefed us. They did not tell us that they specifically said waterboarding wasn't being used when they knew that it was. And also, I was informed that there was a briefing, but it was informed that some of the techniques they had discussed were now being employed, but I was not briefed on that and the specifics of what they were. But the Republicans are having their fun. They conceived, developed, and implemented techniques that were counter to our beliefs as a country. Some people question their effectiveness and that, but the fact is they were wrong. And the fact is also that I have been the champion for human rights and fighting torture and funding for torture victims way early in my career.
But if I could distill what I think the argument is, it is that back then in the post 9/11 circumstance, you went one way, and now that the political winds have shifted and that you're in power,
one way. And what way is that?
To be quiet. That now you're making political hay on Republicans, and I think their argument would be that's what hypocrisy is, that's what partisanship is.
No, the fact is that when we saw what they were doing, their disregard for our values, their disregard for truth, at the same exact time, the fall of 2002, is when the administration was misleading the American people about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq as a reason to go to war. And at that time, to the limit of what I could say publicly, I said the intelligence does not support the imminent threat that this administration is contending. At that time, they said, "Are you calling the president a liar?" I said, "I am stating a fact." So I have, to the extent that I could make any difference, that is to say, with my colleagues to explain to them why I would vote no on the war initiative, why I thought they should too. But in terms of the subject, we have no recourse, and that's why, as we go forward, I want a truth commission, and if we can't do that, for the committees of jurisdiction, intelligence, judiciary, to do their job of investigating how this happened in our country, A, and B, now we can, because we have a Democratic president, have some review of the National Security Act of 1947, which determines how much can be revealed to Congress. My job, it only fueled the flame to me that we must win the Congress, we must win the White House. That's the only way we're going to change this policy. It's interesting that they're having their fun. We're creating jobs. They want to create an illusion. This is their creation, and they have to answer for it. And if they can try to deflect all they want, I am limited in what I can say publicly on these matters, but the fact is I said that they didn't brief us in the briefing I received.
Let me just close by asking you how it feels to be the lightning rod. You've been in this game a long time. You know that for the Speaker, personal attacks come with the territory.
That's
Newt
right.
Gingrich certainly found that out. Now you're finding it out in a somewhat different way. Rush Limbaugh the other day on his radio show said, all right, he was talking about you. It wasn't a lie, it's a fashion statement. She wears Armani clothes, fashionable. Botox shots, fashionable. She's against waterboarding, fashionable. How do you react to stuff?
I don't pay any attention to it. If I were not effective, they wouldn't be making up their junk that's their stock in trade. So as I say to the members, when you're effective, you're a target. We have, as I said, taken us down a path where we'll be the most effective Congress in over 75 years. We have passed a recovery package to create and save 3.5 million new jobs. We have insured 11 million children in our country. We've removed discrimination from the workplace for women. We have done the biggest parks bill and conservation bill in decades. We now have a budget that is a statement of our values coming from our president, reducing the deficit, reducing taxes, focusing on health, education, and energy, which are the three components of growing our economy and creating jobs. Not one of these people has done anything to create one job. If people are suffering in the Midwest, we're trying to create jobs with our energy bill, with our health bill, and with what we're doing in education, and what we have done in the legislation already named.
It
And they're
doesn't hurt when
wasting
you
their
hear this
time.
stuff?
Nothing at all. It doesn't, no. It is, it's curious to me because, again, human rights and torture issues are something where I have big standing. And they can say anything they want, and they have no commitment to fact or truth. But so I'm used to that, and no, it doesn't at all. And it is, again, I think a sign of the effectiveness that this Congress has. And now, again, they haven't made one initiative to create one job. If you were a congressman from Michigan or a congressman from Ohio, where people are suffering badly, wouldn't you think your constituents would want you to be a job creator? As I say, instead of creating jobs, they want to create an illusion and get the spotlight off of their own lack of ideas and their own creation of this policy of torture that many of us have opposed forever. And now we have a new president. So my job was to win, and we won, and then to work to elect a Democratic president. And now we have one, and he says he will ban torture. That's my response to any briefings they gave me, is to change the leadership in our country so that we are values-based as well as effective as we go forward to protect the American people.
Madam Speaker, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.